What is the dumbest idea you have ever had that actually worked? Real estate told me I had to have the carpets professionally cleaned, wasn't in the contract, or I'd lose my $800 bond. I did some research and found out I could become an accredited carpet cleaner, as there are no official licensing boards in my state. So, I did what any sane person would do. I paid the $85, did the online course, and got my certificate. Registered a business name, ABN etc. etc. All free, handed the property management a copy of my accreditation and an invoice for services. I became a professional carpet cleaner and launched a vacate cleaning business that is still going 6 months later. Far from the dumbest working idea in the thread, but I once got an extra day to work on a video project in high school by coming to class with a video that was just a quarter second of blackness, eagerly volunteering to go first, then acting confused and scared when the file didn't work. The teacher took pity on me and told me to just bring it the following day, and I got to finish it that evening and still got full credit, as if I did it on time. Back in high school, I stopped by one of my teacher's rooms after class to ask him some questions about our homework. When I walked in, I noticed he was grading some of our tests. Of note, all of his tests were made up of multiple choice, true/false, or matching, and all of the answers were bubbled in. What I noticed was that instead of using an answer key to grade, he was just placing a stencil over the paper with the correct bubble punched out. The stencil wasn't transparent, so all it showed was whether we bubbled in the right answer or not. Flash forward to our next test, and I'm stuck on a T/F question. Knowing how he graded, I figured I'd bubble in both T and F, and if he caught it, it would be easy enough to claim it was an accident. Well, he didn't catch it, and I used that trick the rest of the year for a little extra boost on all of his tests. Put Jesus in as Wi-Fi password in church. It worked. In college, I was taking a class that required me to purchase an online textbook and workbook that was registered under your name, basically ensuring that each student would have to buy a new online copy each semester instead of buying used textbooks. I had a friend who took this class a semester before me, so we came up with the idea to message customer service and explain that I had recently gotten married, so my last name had changed, and I legally changed my first name from my friend's first name to my first name, and I would need them to change it in their system. It totally worked, and the rep even congratulated me on my marriage. I'm stuck on a cliff, but if I jump at a really sharp angle at that gravel field, I could just slide down there and be fine, just like in TV. Every time I think about this, I'm amazed I'm not either flattened by a rock or impact against something. Childhood really is just the tutorial level sometimes. On 4th of July, I was in Brooklyn, in neighborhood not too far from my own. Was having a hell of a time catching a cab when suddenly an ice cream truck pulled up. My apartment was right next to a ice cream truck depot. I knew any truck in the area was parking there, so I asked for a ride in what little Spanglish I knew. They obliged. Free ride home plus ice cream cone. Big win. Awkward ride. I used to know a guy who, every week, would order his Saturday night curry for delivery while sitting in the pub, and then walk over the road to the curry house and get it and himself delivered home. This went on for about 1012 weeks. One week, we were sitting, having a pint, and the owner of the curry house walked in, took his order, and had him picked up from the pub. He said it was easier for everyone concerned. Got a really long drill bit stuck in a piece of thick wood butcher's block. I tried everything I could think of to yank it out. My solution that ended up working for me was attaching the drill bit to a chain, put the chain on my truck, and have a piece of wood kind of stuck between two branches of a tree. I drove off slowly and it popped right out. Back in the flip phone days, I had dropped mine, and the screen stopped working. I could make and receive calls, but the screen was just completely blank. I put up with it for a couple of weeks, because I couldn't afford a new phone. But one day I had the thought of, well, if dropping the phone made the connection loose, maybe the same thing can fix it, and threw my phone at the ground. I picked it back up, and the screen was working. Bobcat tire blew during a job. Had another tire, but no jack. Positioned the Bobcat behind a dump truck. Bobcat then tries to lift the ass end of the dump truck. Dump truck hella heavy, Bobcat lifted itself instead. Tire changed and back to work. Well, I arrived home with my mom and my little cousin and we realized we forgot the keys at my grandma's house, way the hell across the city. Mom calls my dad to bring his keys. He was working at the time and had taken an hour to arrive, so we'd have to wait outside. I went full hell no mode and kept looking for other ways in. Turned out that one of the tiny back windows was open, but there was a safety pin that kept it from opening all the way up, and the only way to remove it was unscrewing it. So I grabbed a wooden clothless pin that was lying there, broke it, removed the wire that kept it together, because it was just the right size to unscrew the window pin. I did it, pulled a table underneath the window, so I could climb inside, and just like that I managed to successfully break into a house at age 13. We had a noisy rotating rooster with a vane loud enough to keep people awake on windy nights, despite having been lubed. So I filled the hole the rooster rotates in with Crisco, even though people said it was a dumb idea and won't work. Never had to lube it again, because the Crisco didn't break down like other lubes. Our power was out due to a storm. I had a camp stove to use for boiling water, to make a coffee pour through, but I couldn't use my electric grinder for the coffee beans. I tried fashioning a mortar and pestle, but it was taking too long. So, I put the coffee beans in a couple of Ziploc bags, placed the bag right behind the car tire, then ran over it back and forth a couple of times to crush the beans. Worked like a charm. This idea could easily gotten me fired if it went wrong. I was working as art director at an animation studio, making videos for clients. One client was especially pesky about the use of yellow in the background. They wanted it to be that of their logo, which was this horrible neon pus yellow. We advised against it, but after numerous calls we had to cave and gave a version with that color. They hated it, and asked for a change. What followed were 12 versions with numerous calls in between tweaking the color over and over. Eventually I got tired of it, and just sent the original version again. I didn't even bother to rename the file. The client said this looks exactly the way I want it, thank you. How that ever went right I still have no idea. When I was in high school I was sick and out for about 2 weeks, and the day I came back we had a test in my math class for a chapter 1 almost completely missed. My math teacher warned us that it was the hardest math test of the year due to how complex and fast the chapter was. I walk into class dreading this test and I could not even try and bullshit an answer on the short answer page. I could only answer the multiple choice questions because there were options given. My teacher allowed us to rip our test sheets from the staple due to the formulas being provided. I was too embarrassed to hand in a full sheet of something I didn't even attempt, so I simply took the sheet with the short answers, put it in my pocket, and handed in only the sheet with the multiple choice questions/formulas. I put it on the pile on her desk while she was helping another student, so she wouldn't realize. I was dreading the day she was handing these tests back for weeks, and the day finally arrived. She came up to me at the table I was sitting at work my friends, and said she needed to have a private conversation with me regarding the test. I was freaking out, and thought I was going to get in trouble for cheating. I went to go talk to her, and she said I lost your test, I played dumb, and she agreed to give me a mark, based on the averages of all my other math tests. Basically based on what I handed in, which mind you was the only part 1 actually completed. I should have received a 11% and I ended up getting something in the high 70s. In university I was late on an assignment that was supposed to be in my TA's Dropbox by noon that day. I didn't manage to get there until almost 3, so I was sure he had already emptied it. Now, the Dropboxes were literal boxes in cubbies with a slot on the front and a lock on them that prevented them from being pulled out. The rack holding them was just a basic metal frame with about 5 rows of boxes. My T.A.S. box was somewhere in the middle of the shelf. So I figured, I'm late anyways, why not take a chance? And slipped my assignment into the box below my T.A.S. box. I got my assignment handed back a few weeks later than everyone else, and it had a note from another T.A. scribbled on it that said, "Looks like this fell into my box by mistake." I got full marks on the assignment. In my senior year of high school, we had to spend our final quarter doing mandatory volunteer work to graduate. I was placed at a Head Start in my city, and while some of the kids I worked with were great, there was one, Brandon, who was an absolute nightmare. 20 months old, endless energy, no empathy, no speech beyond a few words, and no ability to recognize pain in other children. At nap time, someone always had to be sitting next to his cot, as he would otherwise just get up and run around, sometimes hitting the other sleeping kids. If he could get away with it, he would be a spiteful little shit and repeatedly stick his feet out from under his blanket, after you pushed it back in, like it was a game. One day I got so frustrated trying to get this brat to sleep, that I basically just laid him down flat, arms and legs together, and closely tucked his blanket in under him from top to bottom like a burrito. To my overwhelming joy, he made no attempt to escape, and was asleep within 2 minutes. I repeated this tactic over the next few days with the same results. It worked. Brandon would sleep. One of the actual teachers/workers there saw me doing this to him one day, and asked me what I was doing. I explained the process, but she was skeptical, until I showed her just how quickly Brandon would chill out. I swear, her face lit up, like I had just given her the most life-changing advice ever. Oh my god, /you/darkness, you're right, he actually falls asleep. Thank you for watching. Please consider giving this video a like, and remember to subscribe, and hit that bell button, as we add new Reddit readouts every day. See you next time. Bye.